Hello everyone, I am Dr. Souvik, faculty in the Department of Civil Engineering, Swami Vivekananda Institute of Science and Technology, Kolkata. Welcome you to the lecture series on the subject Energy Science and Engineering for the third semester Civil Engineering Department. So in this lecture series, I will cover what are the energy sources. That's mean from where we can obtain renewable energy and from where we can get a non-renewable energy. Also, I will discuss about the relation between energy and the environment. That how we are harnessing energy, which kind of energy source will impact our environment, and what kind of approach will lead to a sustainable development for our future generation. I will also discuss in this series of lecture the civil engineering projects or the infrastructure which are related to the energy sector, like your nuclear power plant, like your solar farm, like solar chimney, wind turbine, geothermal energy, and also the earlier energy sources like your hydropower plant and thermal power plant. Also, I will discuss about the basic requirement or the approaches which can lead to the conservation of energy, like using your smart LED bulb, smart sensors, so that we can reduce the consumption of energy and we can save energy. So before going to all the modules and the details, let's start with basic introduction to the energy. So before going to the details, earlier in primitive ages or the earlier civilizations, when human have invented the fire, it has changed the scenario. So based on the advancement and the requirement, like with requirement of the industrializations, requirement of the farming, so we developed that how to harness energy, like from thermal power, burning of fossil fuel or coal. And like in modern technologies, as we are concerned about sustainable development and clean technology, so we have nowadays we are obtaining clean energy technology like wind power, like solar power, solar thermal, solar panel, and also nuclear energy. But we humans are producing this kind of energy with some compromising our environment. Like if we harness energy from a thermal power plant, then it will emit lots of carbon dioxide. So these carbon dioxide are basically greenhouse gases, and it will eventually increase the temperature of the climate. And if the temperature of the climate will increase, there will be lots of consequences. So we need to be careful that how we are harnessing energy and how we are impacting our environment, and the approaches as an engineer what we should do to mitigate such kind of problem. Before going to the details of this energy and its relation to the environment, let's begin with the basic fundamental principles and of energy. As you all know that energy is the capacity to do what, and it has many forms like kinetic energy for a moving body, potential energy, thermal energy, chemical energy, nuclear energy, electrical, and for solar energy. And there is also laws of conservation of energy, that as we all know that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only it transforms from one form to another. That's mean from ourselves we cannot our source of energy is sun. We cannot create ourselves any energy. We can earn it by using technology or some by phenomena. We can transfer like chemical energy to electrical energy, like radiant solar energy to electrical energy, from thermal energy to electrical energy. We can only transfer from one form to the another form. Also, there are two thermodynamics laws are associated which are related to the energy conversions. The first law of thermodynamics, it states that the total energy of an isolated system remain constant. Suppose if we have a closed system, then what of the amount of energy is present in this system will always be constant. It can only transfer from one form to the another form. And the second law of thermodynamics, which state that the energy conversion increases entropy, thus no process is 100% efficient. That's mean, suppose from a chemical source there's a 100 joule of energy, and if we are converting this energy to electrical energy, as an output, we will not get the 100 joule. There will be some losses. And this implemented in energy transformation in engines, power plants, and biological system always involves some losses, mostly as heat. Now, how the energy flows in our nature? Energy basically flows in our nature and thus from the sun. Sun is the basic source of all the energy. It drives the wind and also the hydrological cycles. Hydrological cycles means suppose we have a water body, and if sun is there and it evaporate the water, it will form a cloud. Again, after condensation, this cloud will transform into rain and come back to the sea, river, or any kind of water body. So this is known as your hydrological cycle. And these cycles are basically the driving force of all the life in our earth. Now, energy conversion in ecosystem generally happen from the energy coming from the sun is trapped into the as a chemical energy through the process of photosynthesis in plants, and it transferred to the other living beings or creatures. And we humans basically mimics all these natural processes to mechanical and chemical conversions by burning fossil fuels or harnessing wind, and we transfer it to electrical energy. Now, the basic measurement unit of energy is your joule as per the SI system, and common equivalents are 1 kilowatt hour equals to 3.6 into 10 to the power 6 joule. And if we burn or 1 ton of oil, which is equivalent to 41.9 gigajoule. That's mean if we burn 1 ton of oil, it will create energy of around 41.9 gigajoule. Now, our topic is that as engineer, our approach will be that so that how we can harness the energy and how it is impacting our society and environment. As well as the economic growth is important for every country, and it is measured by GDP growth. Now, if a country has a higher GDP growth, it will require much more energy, and the consumption of energy will be much more higher in such countries. Now, if we go for a higher GDP growth, that's mean we need economic activity, like we need to run port, transports and infrastructure. We also need a lot of industry so that we can manufacture something and we can import this kind of product for outside our country. So this kind of industrialization, transportation infrastructure, port, all require high amount of energy. As well as also that recently we have developed AI. So there are lots of super computer we need to run. So these computers basically consume very high amount of energy, and it also generate heats also. So as an engineers, mainly civil engineer, our challenge is that we need to achieve the economic growth without compromising the environment. So that we can compromise we cannot how we stop the compromising the environment by stopping the emission from this kind of energy sources. Also, we need to focus that the equality in energy distributions. As per United Nations, there are 17 goals are there for sustainable development. So one goal is that is goal number 7, is that equal distribution of energy. But till now, in our world, about 700 million people globally still lack of electricity access, and mostly in African nations and some Middle East nations, also some South Asian countries. And this unequal energy distribution perpetuates poverty and limits educational and healthcare opportunities. So, like for example, if we are here sitting here at SBIST, we have lots of computers, smart boards, laboratory equipments or machines, and you have also mechanical workshop. So, to run all these equipment, we need a lots of energy. Similarly, if you're a healthcare system, there are lots of nowadays life supporting systems are there. So without energy, this life supporting instrument cannot work. So also we need the energy, but the African nation, they have the lack of energy, so they cannot provide proper educational infrastructure and healthcare also. So for that purpose, the United Nations justice frameworks advocate equitable access and sustainable distributions. The energy is also related to the national security. Suppose you all know that for a nuclear power plant, to harness energy from the nucleus of an atom, we require uranium. But in India, there is not abundant of uranium. We need to purchase or import this kind of this uranium from some other countries. Now, if the other country is not a friend of India, and due to some geopolitical issues, they may stop the supplying of uranium at any time. So our nuclear plant will be shut down. So we need to, that's why we are focusing on thorium-based energy. And thorium is present as an abundance in our sea beaches, sand. So the point is that, so we should depend on our own energy sources. So if we depend on other country for energy sources, what will happen that if they will not provide the energy, then our industry, our healthcare system, our educational institution, our transportation infrastructure, port, all will be under risk. So that's why also every nation require a energy security. So that is the point from the societal point of view. Now, if we observe this as a, the energy and the environment, now you can see this picture that is for Delhi. That is basically smog is created here, and it is a clean environment. Now, when you are burning a fossil fuel by driving a car or some kind of our stove oven, or you may say the thermal power plant, we release lots of carbon dioxide, oxides of nitrogen, sulfur, and particulate matters. Generally, particulate matters are basically small particles of 2.5 mm or your 10 mm. Generally, these basically create lots of pollutions. And if there is a the air or the environment is present that this kind of bad quality of air, then it will affect our lungs, human health. It will reduce the visibility, and ultimately it will deteriorate the overall life of every habitat in this zone. Another impact of is that the greenhouse gases, the carbon dioxide, methane, CH4, N2O, and fluorinated gases, these are basically called as the greenhouse gases, and these are basically responsible for global warming. These greenhouse gases, what they will do, when the infrared radiations coming from the sun, these greenhouse gases basically trap the infrared radiations in their molecules, and eventually they heat the environment. As a world, as a consequence, the temperature of the surrounding environment is increasing, and the overall climate is changing, and the global temperature is increasing. And as a result, there is a melting of glaciers, sea level rises, extreme weather conditions, biodiversity loss. That's when with the change in the environment, some habitat or the some living beings are there which who cannot accommodate with such kind of changes. And also some if you from nuclear power plant or your thermal power plant, there are lots of waste are generated at your for thermal power plant. There are fly ashes are there. For nuclear power plant, nuclear wastes are there, and if we dump them in a uncontrolled manner, so gradually it will harm the land and water, and it will degrade its natural fertility rate. And sometimes if such kind of situation is going on for a long time, as a result we may not have lands for farming. So we need to keep in mind that how we can reduce the waste generation, how we can reduce the emission of the greenhouse gases, and how we can control the temperature of the climate so that in 2050 we can reduce the temperature around 1 degree or 1.5 degrees centigrade correspond respect to the present temperature. To achieve such kind of goals, the various United Nations organizations are there, various countries they have come together and set up framework so that if we work through that framework, and if, then we can achieve this kind of goal, which will lead to a sustainable world. Now, for this, Kyoto Protocol has been established in the year 1997, and it set binding emission target for developed countries. India was not included at that time in this here, because at that time India was a developing nations. Now you have also seen some cars are there with a BS4, BS6. So they are basically the quality of the petrol is increasing and the emission reducing the emissions. And earlier also around 1990, we in India we generally use lead-based petroleum. Some leads are present in petroleum, which is harmful for the lungs and also the environment. So we now at present India has banned such kind of fuel. After that, 2015 Paris Agreement has been signed, and also India is also member of this Paris Agreement. And here, a global commitment to limit the temperature rise to below 2 degrees centigrade, preferably 1.5 degrees centigrade. And in this Paris Agreement also, a solar alliance has been chalked out by our Emmanuel Macron, the France president, and also the our honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi. All they have signed, and they have committed that around 2050 we will go for a temperature decrease around 2 degrees centigrade. And also United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are there. 17 goals are there. So the goal number 7 says that ensure access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable and modern energy for all, so that everyone from a poor to a rich, from a underdeveloped nation to a developed nation, everyone have the same opportunity or the same right to access to a clean and reliable energy. That's mean clean means clean energy is costly because it is in a development phase. But if we burn coal, it is cheaper, but it will harm the environment. So the energy should be affordable, reliable, and it should be clean. And and another timeline which has been chalked out is that a net zero targets. That's mean we will go for a carbon neutral world. Only one country is there, that is Bhutan, which is carbon negative, but all of other countries are carbon positive. And our objective is that 2050 to 2070, in that time zone, we will go for a carbon neutral society. So this is the end of the first lecture. In the second lecture, we will go details about the energy and its relation environment and in the society. Thank you.